If you've seen the most recent MonsterVerse movie, you would know that Godzilla doesn't have as much impact on the plot as his titular status might have implied. Sure, Big G shows up and lays out the law on every Titan he encounters, from Alpha status challenger Scylla to previous opponent Kong. When Godzilla does appear, he consistently asserts his Alpha status. But those scenes are only a couple minutes long at best. Otherwise, the movie is largely about Kong exploring the subterranean zone of Hollow Earth, encountering the lost great apes, and then being a major player in defeating Scar King and Shimu. A Kong sequel wouldn't have had as much hype and in turn box office success as the crossover we were promoted, but what could have been if we focus on Kong? Well, here's what I think. As a start, we can leave the plot with Jaya in, leaving the distress call coming from the Iowa tribe, but let's leave the acknowledgement of the fact that the tribe is still around at the very end of the movie. Our monarch protagonist instead will interpret the warning solely being for Scar King instead of Shimu. As for Kong, by cutting out the Godzilla scenes, we can repurpose the CGI budget into extending Kong's fights, as well as giving him more bonding scenes with Kid Kong. If you saw my review, you'd know that I thought Kong's fight with the sea serpent should have been longer, instead of a mere 30 seconds of water wrestling before Kong walks back into frame with the deceased sea beast. I would also extend Kong's initial run-in with the great apes, adding a scene where Kid Kong throws a rock at him, but misses, only for our big man to scoop up a bigger rock and bonk the fleeing monkey as we got in the movie. Let's not solely focus on giant ape action. Instead, we'll also give more depth to the newly discovered great apes. Let's change Kong's first fight with Scar King to have the slave-owning orangutan beat Kong more decisively. With Kong pinned down, Kid Kong would throw a rock in Scar King's direction with his back turned just for him to miss. This opening would allow Kong to strike at Scar King and make his escape, with Kid Kong soon to follow. The scene where Kong and Kid Kong deal with a pack of lackey monkeys would unfold as it did in the movie, followed by a scene where Kong snipes at a Hollow Earth bird or something like that for food. Kid Kong would try to throw a rock at another bird just to miss again, and the two would then have a bonding scene as Kong teaches the little guy how to aim better. Suddenly, a pack of great apes surround them. It looks like all is lost, but turns out this pack of monkeys would have been inspired by Kong's fight against Scar King to come aid him in trying to push back on the tyrant. We will cut back and forth between Jaya and her mom having their drama before they dive into Hollow Earth, just as is shown in the base movie. Allow the bonding between mother and daughter play out because of the dangerousness of the underworld. When the two groups overlap, Kong and Jaya would communicate about the threat of Scar King, which would clear up to the Monarch Mom that this is what those distress signals were about. From here, we would follow the Human-Titan Union as they form a plan to overthrow the slave-owning Scar King, and then have the two factions clash. Despite the aids of the humans and additional great apes, Kong would again find himself on the back foot before his hand is shredded up by Scar King's bone whip and then horrendously burned by having it shoved into lava. As Kong is about to be executed, the Aussie guy repeats his big plan with the electric pterodactyls flying in and zapping the evil monkeys. Even more inspired now, the great apes would again push back on their tyrant with the help of the humans. With the forces clashing, Kong has his third fight with Scar King, where he gets disarmed of his axe, with Scar King noting that it's in the direction of Kid Kong. He remembers earlier that Kid Kong can't throw for his life, so he turns his back on him just to get clipped in the shoulder. Kong would then rear the axe loose, they would have a little bit more of a scrap, and ultimately they would defeat Scar King. With his enemy defeated, Kong is presented with the opportunity to execute him, though he decides against it to demonstrate the start of a new era for the Great Apes, as they are now led by Kong, King of Hollow Earth. From here, I'd have a mid or post-credit scene that shows Jaya and the Monarch crew finally encounter the Iwa people. Jaya would be telepathically told that the distress signals were not a warning for Scar King, but instead for a much greater threat, the Ice Age enacting Shimu. This would set up the Ice Beast as a proper solo film threat for Godzilla for the next MonsterVerse film. And that's it, though I'm sure by presenting a rewrite of the movie, it might seem like I didn't like what we got, but that's the furthest from the truth. I had an absolute blast with GxK New Empire, but felt that with a slight rework, we could have gotten an even more interesting monster movie. But what are your thoughts? Do you think my proposal makes sense? What did you think the movie could have done differently to make an even better film? Leave your thoughts in the comments and leave a like if you enjoy the video. Thanks for watching. I hope that you had a good time, and take care.